Hey folks, before we dive into this one, this month on the 19th and 20th, I'll be at Ride Adventure's Las Vegas training weekend. They're running their intro to adventure riding, and it's the perfect way to get your feet dirty if you've been meaning to start riding off-road. They got a team of knowledgeable instructors, bikes available for rental, and you can come watch me crash off-road, so it's a win-win. If you're interested, click that link down below and sign up, but hurry, there's only a few spots left for this weekend. It's going to be a great time, and I hope to see you there.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, and today it's a sad day. I'm officially selling my KTM 690 smc-r. We're going to talk about why this bike is on the chopping block and what might be next for Old Spite. Let's hit the road. Alright, so now that we're on the road, let me start this out by saying that if you're a motorcyclist who's ridden around for, a while, you've had a couple of motorcycles, you probably understand where I'm coming from. But a lot of folks out there, you might just have one, or you might still be looking at getting your first bike. And let me tell you, right out of the gate, you're not going to keep your first motorcycle forever. And you're not going to keep your second motorcycle forever. And you're not going to keep your third motorcycle forever. That's one of the, beauties of being a motorcyclist is bikes are relatively cheap compared to cars, so if you want to, you can kind of get in, have a bike for a couple of seasons, and then switch it out. So that's sort of the attitude that I've had with motorcycles. You could call it ADD or ADHD or whatever, but I like to keep it fresh with my bikes. This is actually the longest time I've ever owned a motorcycle, period, full stop. I bought this in June or July of 2020, and it is now it's October of 2022, so it's been over 2 years with this bike. However, it's worth pointing out that for the better part of 2022, I did not have this motorcycle. And that's definitely part of the reason why I'm selling it. All of the issues that I've had with this, with regards to theft attempts and all of that, that's part of the reason why I'm selling it, but it's not the main reason. So let's talk about the good stuff about this motorcycle. First of all, ton of fun. It is one of the most fun motorcycles on the road. I've had so many good times on this bike. I've taken it to the track, I've taken it on trips, I've gone to the Twisted Sisters, I've done all sorts of cool stuff with this bike. And it's done it all with the plum. It's been a riot of a good time to have. And that's really what I wanted. I was coming off of the VFR, and that bike was starting to bore me a little bit because it was just too buttoned up and pulled together, and I wanted something that had more chaotic energy. And that's exactly what I got with this bike. The power on it is great. The sound it makes is cool. And the fit and finish, I mean, this is thoroughly a premium motorcycle. Cost $11,700 when I bought it. It's over 12 grand now. The fit and finish is absolutely premium quality here. And KTM, they didn't really spare any expense on this bike. They put a lot of great materials on here, including an IMU and a cool tech package. This was my first motorcycle that actually had a proper tech package, including an up and down quick shifter, which we're going to get to in a second. Originally, I thought it was super duper cool. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the drawbacks on this bike. So, I live in Texas, and Texas, it's a lot of straight roads that lead to some relatively twisty roads. Even here in Austin, we're lucky that we have some good twisties that are relatively close. But, it's still just Texas hills. There's mostly just sweeping corners. It's not tight technical stuff. And I mean, even this is not tight and technical, but this is about as close as I can get without getting too far out in the hills. So this motorcycle doesn't really make sense on the highway. It's a single cylinder, so it vibrates a lot, and it's really, really lightweight, which is actually a double-edged sword on the highway. You don't want a motorcycle that's crazy light. You want something that's got a little bit of mass to it, because that's going to help keep the bike planted. Oh, I'm going to be chasing down this, whatever that is. Weight helps keep the bike planted on the road when you're cruising down the highway. Another thing that sucks on this bike is on the highway, it is not comfortable. The seat on this is made out of plywood, and I've got the comfort seat on here. I could spring for the seat concept seat. It's got a wider pad on it that's a little bit more built like a naked bike seat, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend any more money on this bike. I've spent a good pile of cash. All of the mods on here, with the exception of the exhaust, I purchased full price. Now, I did talk about how cool the tech package was, however, there are some issues with it. I hate the dashboard. Come on, KTM. A $12,000 motorcycle, and you put a clock on it that literally looks like it's straight from Trail Tech. No shade to Trail Tech. They make cool tech, hence the name, but come on, really? Really, really? This looks exactly like one of the Trail Tech units that they sell on their website. And now let's talk about the transmission. The transmission on this motorcycle is one of the worst I've ever felt. I was breaking it in, and I was complaining to my buddy who has a 1290 Super Adventure, and I was like, man, the transmission on this thing it's really, you know, it's not very positive. It's hard to use. The quick shifter doesn't work all that well. And he's like, yeah, mine was the same way. It took about 3,000 miles to break in, and then it started working. Well, I've got north of 6,000 miles on this bike, and it still doesn't work right. You have to yank the crap out of it, and even then, when you do, it's entirely possible that you're going to catch a false neutral. The quick shift feel on this bike is pretty poor, and that's one of the things on a motorcycle that I just can't abide. You're using the transmission all the time, and it's why I shouted out on bikes where I particularly like the transmission feel. Like my KLR has an awesome transmission feel, and it's like a $7,000 motorcycle. There's no excuse for this transmission to be as poor as it is. I almost would prefer if it didn't have the quick shifter, because then when you're using the actual clutch, it feels pretty good. It feels pretty good. So when you combine all of the flaws with this motorcycle, weighed against its positives, and then you look at the way that I actually use the motorcycle, it doesn't make sense for me to keep it. And you know what? There's been a lot of times when I've gotten rid of motorcycles and I've felt sad about it. I felt like I'm giving up a part of me. It's kind of an emotional thing, you know? You get attached to your bikes. You go and do track days on them, and you do trips on them. And it's hard to get rid of a bike. But with this one, I don't really feel any type of way about getting rid of it. I actually feel pretty good. I feel like I'm closing the chapter on a well-written story here. I experienced everything there is to experience with this motorcycle. The only thing I wish I could have done is actually go back to a track with it now that I have the suspension set up and some other stuff, but whatever. You win some, you lose some. Now, this is actually attempt number 2 at filming this video. I actually went out and filmed a vlog yesterday, and in that vlog I said that I did not want to talk about what motorcycle I was replacing the KTM with, because it was still all hypothetical, and I didn't want to take mental possession of the new motorcycle before I signed the paperwork. And that has since changed. The folks over at AF1 and I reached a deal pretty darn quickly. There wasn't actually a whole lot of haggling that needed to get did. And I am going to go finalize the paperwork, hand in the keys, and pick up the next motorcycle. So let's go do that really fast.
6.5 hours later.
And just like that, welcome to the afternoon. I actually spent the entire day today filming on the RSV Melee, which I'm not sure when that video is going to come out. I'm just kind of making a bunch of stuff, and it's all sitting in the backlog waiting to get edited because I'm going to be doing some traveling in November. But long story short, I have the new motorcycle, and it is right there. Ducati Hyperstrada 2013 with 12,000 miles on the clock. I traded in the smc-r for a dad version supermoto. Absolute dad version supermoto with about $3,000 worth of bags that were already on it. I believe the Hyper comes, or the Hyperstrada rather, comes with the side panniers, but the top box, that has been added in post. I'm not sure if this is a Ducati rack or not, but this is definitely a Ducati bag, and that's like an $800 bag that was just on the bike. Other than that, there's like no mods on this thing. It's bone stock. You know, it's got the like red Duca bike stuff on it, but nothing that really matters, you know? No exhaust on it. It's totally stock. All the mirrors and blinkers are stock, and it's actually in really great shape. This bike is in remarkable shape for being a 2013 with 12,000 miles on the clock. So why did I buy this motorcycle in particular? Well, why don't we hit the road and talk about it? Now, obviously, we're not gonna get you started without giving you a little exhaust clip. Gotta love that 821 V-twin in here. Oh God, this has so much more torque. Oh my God. So, did my cheese fall off my cracker? Did I lose all my marbles? Why did I buy a Ducati when I had a KTM that had already had 3 theft attempts on it and was already a maintenance nightmare? Why did I buy a Ducati, which is inherently more desirable to thieves and is quite famous for its desmodromic valve services? Well, first of all, believe it or not, this motorcycle was very cheap. I found it at AF1 for, I believe it was like $71.99 is what I paid for it. Was the actual like number before tax. Out the door, their original number was like 8,300 bucks. So I think I saved like a grand or two almost. No, it saved like a grand. And I traded in the KTM, and then the only difference was the balance on the loan, because I owed a little bit on the KTM. So basically now I own this thing free and clear, which that's a huge reason why I wanted to get rid of the KTM, is I didn't own the KTM. I owed about 2,700 bucks on it, and I was sick of paying for it. I was really sick of paying for it all the way through the repair process. I had to pay money every month for a bike that I couldn't ride, and it drove me nuts. I couldn't stand it. So I didn't want to have to pay for a bike anymore. This thing's mine, free and clear. Another reason why I went with this bike is because it's a twin. I really, you know, I've been riding a lot of bikes lately, and it's started to make me think, what do I value in a motorcycle? And the biggest thing that I value right now is I value the ability to be comfortable on the highway, but fun in the twisties with a nice torquey engine. And a single isn't going to do that, regardless of how heavy that single is. It's just not going to be good on the highway. Ask me how I know. It's not like I haven't had 3 of them in a row at this point. So I wanted a V-twin, or L-twin if you're nasty. Oh man, they're so much more fun for me to ride. I like the way L-twins or V-twins make their power. They're so much more fun and enjoyable. Also, this thing has a much more comfortable seat. The bike is ridiculously comfy. The whole point of the Hyperstrada was to take the Hypermotard and make it comfortable for touring. I don't plan on touring with this motorcycle, although I just might. You know, it's got the full panniers on there. The seat's really comfortable. This little windscreen does an okay job on the highway. It's a really nice package. And if you remember in my Desert X video, I said that Ducati doesn't screw around with their motorcycles, and I still believe that. I mean, this motorcycle was 2013, and it feels every bit as good as like the modern Monster, to be honest. It feels great. I mean, it's making like 110 horsepower, 65 foot-pounds of torque. That's a great number for the street, especially for the kind of riding that I like to do. And it still has a lot of the supermoto vibes, you know. You can totally just calm down and cruise and sit on this thing like a naked bike, but you can also, you know, get aggressive with it if you wanted to get your elbows up and get into attack position. I always did kind of consider the Hypermotard to be more of a naked bike than a supermoto, but, you know, it does still have a lot of supermoto vibes to it. Man, this thing it handles so well too. For a non-adjustable suspension, the only thing I have is preload. It handles great. And the transmission, oh my god, the transmission is light years better than on the KTM. Yeah, I don't have a quick shifter. Don't even care. I'll just clutchless shift this thing all day long and have a riot of a time doing it, because the transmission just feels really good. I can actually find neutral every single time on this thing. Now, I am going to do probably a full day in the saddle on this guy, just to give you the rundown, but those are my quick kind of thoughts and my reasons why I went and bought this motorcycle. And guys, the biggest thing that I want to impress upon you with all of this is there's no shame in admitting that the motorcycle that you currently have isn't the bike you want to ride anymore. That totally happens. It happens all the time. I've gone through 8 bikes now, I think, in 6 years or something like that. I've owned a lot of different motorcycles, and every single one of them has just, they've served their purpose, but they come and go. And I'm over the moon about the Ducati today, but, you know, maybe in a couple of years, will it still be in my garage? I don't know. So if you're sitting on a motorcycle in your shop or in your garage that you're like, you don't enjoy going out and riding it, maybe it's time to check and see if there's something else out there, something else that can make you just as happy as your bike used to. And you know, it's totally okay to trade in your motorcycle. I got lucky in the fact that I was out from under the KTM. This motorcycle cost less than the KTM was worth. So if I didn't owe anything on the KTM, I would have had this free and clear with a little bit of cash in my pocket. And guys, that's gonna do it for me today. Hopefully you enjoyed this look into why I decided to sell the KTM and why I decided to join the Ducatista Club. I'm probably gonna have to, you know, go talk to the guys at Ducati Austin to make sure I get all my Ducati gear and, you know, all that stuff. But if you're in the market for an SMC-r, AF1 Racing in Austin, they just got their hands on one. So it's, you know, it's totally fine. It's a fun motorcycle. It's all yours for the taking if you're interested. And I will shout out the guys at AF1. They did not tell me to say this. They don't know I'm going to say this. I've bought a lot of motorcycles. The AF1 buying experience was the best one I've ever had. Full stop, period, end of story. There wasn't any pressure. They gave me the numbers that I wanted to see first time around. It was just the easiest buying experience I've had on a bike. It beats a Harley-Davidson dealership. Certainly beats Ride Now here in Austin. So I would highly recommend going and checking out their bikes if you're in the market for one, new or used. I will catch you guys in the next one. See you later.